Welcome to Crossover Thursday with Locked On Eagles. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy, a whole new way. Pick 2 to 5 players, whether they'll get more or less than their Prize Picks projection, and you can win up to 10 times your money. You can get 100% match up to $100 at prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is week 2 in the National Football League, and you know what that means. It is week 2 of Crossover Thursday here at the Locked On Podcast Network. And this week, I am joined by host of the Locked On Vikings podcast, Luke Braun. I am Gino Camilleri, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Luke, we're both 1-0. We're going into yet another Eagles-Vikings matchup where I'm not as high on this team going into this matchup as I was in the past going into Minnesota, but I think this is one that has so many storylines that you could get caught up in the off-the-field stuff when the product on Sunday is going to be rather fun to watch.
Well, can we get it out of the way then, right away?
Yeah.
Do you want the Jalen Reagor update?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We've begun to sexualize him. He's an objectified piece of meat. And I don't know, so like you guys didn't like him, right? Like the first round bust thing, you guys were, it seems like you were happy to see the back of him. And so were we, but like in a way different way.
That's a fantastic way to put it. No, that's great. And I'm glad you have made light of the Jalen Reagor situation, because coming out of what he went through here in Philadelphia, he really needed to go somewhere where he could just get out of the hay. And man, the fans gave it to him here. And that Minnesota nice, I'm sure he's loving up there right about now.
Nice is one word for it. We have, I kid you not, we're sexualizing him. Do you know that the Eagles fans know the quote?
You should say it again. I've read the quote many times. Go ahead.
So special teams coordinator Matt Daniels was talking about, he said, hey, I was salivating over this guy back in the 2020 draft. And this is all verbatim. He is a very stout, cocky built guy. He's not really narrow. He's got thick, strong legs, big glutes, really nice calves, you know. Again, I salivated over the guy. And so now he's a sex icon in Minnesota. So thanks for that. And also a punt returner. That's all he does here. He's wide receiver 4 and a punt returner.
It's good when you have a 1, 2, and 3 as good as Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and my personal favorite, horns up to the former UB Buffalo and Miami.
Wow.
KJ Osborne. Oh, come on.
KJ Osborne. You get it then. You know, he's good. They didn't use him at all. They didn't use Thielen. They didn't use anybody but Jefferson against the Packers because they didn't have to. But he's our little secret. He's he looked great in camp. He's a way better. He's probably still number 3 right now, just by virtue of Thielen and Jefferson being there. But he's a dog, man. He can play.
And that's the thing with the Eagles right now, is coming off of that game last week where Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, they had a bit of success. What is your feeling going into this game where the Eagles just gave up 35 points on defense? The Vikings look like world beaters with Justin Jefferson and what they were able to do against the Packers. I mean, if we're going to do this, match them up, X's against X's, it looks pretty fair. But I just think and say, man, this is a much better team than Detroit. I don't know how you can hold this team to anything less than that right now.
What happened against the Lions? Because I thought the Eagles defense was supposed to be like super, like Jordan Davis and Darius Slay, and you had like the Eagles defense was supposed to be super dope, right?
Jordan Davis, when he was on the field, on the ground, Detroit was only getting a little over 2.5 yards per carry. When he was off of the field, he was up near 7.5 yards per pop. So that was the thing. They didn't utilize their personnel correctly. They would leave the 4 down front out there, which got eaten alive all day against the run and against the pass, because against the run, they were just leaving 2-3 techs, regardless if they were running under and over, and they were just trapping these guys to death. They were just getting in their face, pushing them out of the play. Fletcher Cox is good, don't get me wrong, but he's not the same guy he was. He doesn't have that endurance to take on double teams all day long. Javon Hargrave, he is not playing at the caliber we saw him last year, and they didn't have the guy that they drafted to beat inside trap blocks, to open up the A and B gap for other players to get in there. They only gave him north of 20 snaps. So if they don't go into this
Was
week,
he tired?
I don't know. I think it's Jonathan Gannon. I think it's really the defensive coordinator, and he has all of these pieces. You can't say what they added wasn't good enough to go out there and put together a better product against the Lions team that is better. But what they did to you in the second half in situational football, where you couldn't get off of the field against the team that is probably going to be one of the easier matchups you play. Now you're going into a game where you have two elite route running wide receivers and multiple running backs that can carry the ball on inside zone and spread you out on outside zone as well. So we're going to see if they can't hit their gap, if they can't tackle. This Minnesota team has showed with this exact personnel over the last couple of years against the Eagles that they can eat them up. And that's the thing that really frightens me.
It's wild. You're like talking me into this. I have no idea what to make of this matchup going into this conversation, but you're kind of talking. I might pick the Vikings. Damn.
Every time
I have no idea. I was going to go with Vegas.
Positive, it goes reverse.
Okay. So you're doing the reverse jinx. All right. I'm going to join you then. So we'll both pick against our teams.
That's
so it's interesting because the Vikings, the run game was like fine, but obviously the whole game was defined by just Justin Jefferson going off, and the whole offensive game plan was revolved around getting favorable matchups for Justin Jefferson. The Packers really wanted Jair on him, but the Vikings kind of denied that. They motioned him away or moved him across the field so that Jair had to pass him off. So I guess my question is, do you think the Eagles are going to sell out on Justin Jefferson? Because that's going to be what they have to do. And if they do, then we start talking about like, okay, are they going into a nickel package with Jordan Davis off the field? And now, we're going to run for 8 a pop. We're going to talk about key matchups in a little bit here. But like, there isn't a Justin Jefferson versus Darius Slay matchup. If the Vikings have anything to say about it, that won't happen. It'll be Justin Jefferson versus Marcus Epps, which, by the way, I want to ask you about him too, because it's a little sore. We let him go and it seems like he's playing well.
I will say before we get into our key matchups, because what you said about Justin Jefferson, I think will lead perfectly into our discussion, because that's essentially what this game plan will boil down to. But man, Marcus Epps, let me tell you something. You talk about the reverse of Jalen Reagor, somebody who came in here and the first waiver claim gets put into a position in a playoff game against Seattle late in that game where he's matched up one-on-one against DK Metcalf. Not fair. Nobody should be asked to do that, especially an undrafted rookie, somebody that they get off of waiver claims. And then all of a sudden, he just is a guy that we say, like TJ Edwards at the linebacker position, you can't kick him off the roster. He just does too many things good enough to stay around, but not anything great.
I love
but
that
now
kind of player.
He's kind of evolved into doing some things pretty well. Last week, he had an exceptional play early on a screen to the slot receiver where he was responsible for. He's about 12 yards off in that overhang position. He's coming down, reads the screen pass right away. Penei Sewell is trying to reach block.
Oh, I saw that clip.
Blows by Penei Sewell, puts his shoulder down, perfect form tackle, blows up the play. If he doesn't make that tackle, that runner has a key blocker in front of him in Penei Sewell, and he's taken off for 15 to 20 yards. And not only that, he made a play against the pass last week where he is on the opposite side of the field as the right safety, reads the deep crosser on his third, takes him all the way across the field to cap the route that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had over the top. He comes underneath. They cone this thing perfectly, and you're just saying his intelligence shows up, and there's a reason why they couldn't kick him off. And I say that smarts in this league, if you are smart, the athleticism will catch up to you, not the other way around.
You know who that sounds like?
Go ahead.
You're going to laugh. You know who that sounds like? Anthony Harris in 2019.
A very, very similar story. Very similar.
Yeah.
And I think the scheme and the people in charge of who were calling plays for him, I mean, man, Mike Zimmer is really what we are doing in our defense. So it makes all the sense.
A little, yeah, because he was started on the Zimmer staff, right? Jonathan Gannon.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we got to talk about Turo, and then we're going to talk about matchups. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. You could get a classic or a luxury car or an SUV or a minivan or whatever you need. You can find an affordable economy car if you're on a budget and you just need to get from A to B, and many Turo hosts can even deliver their car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Ditch boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Turo.com.
Gino Camilleri from Locked On Eagles, Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, and we are bringing you key matchups for this Week 2 Monday night edition. We got to wait an extra day, Luke. I know that early on in the season, we always it's always bitter to me because everybody's having fun on Sunday. It's not Week 1. Week 2 is a close second, but there's also another game, so you don't really get the national spotlight. Buffalo is going to be taking on Tennessee that night. We're kind of just in the background. We're our filler little NFC game that we have this bitter rivalry between our fan bases over the
bitter rivalry. We're like the YouTuber fight before the real fight on like UFC night.
Yes, great way to say it.
And both just as toxic.
Absolutely.
With toxic fan bases, right? One way more toxic than the other. So let's talk about matchups.
Gotta get it in there.
I had to. I'm sorry. So let's talk about Matt. So here's the matchup that everybody in Minnesota is talking about. Jordan Davis on Garrett Bradbury. Garrett Bradbury will go with 300 pounds. That's what they listed him on the website. So sure. And Jordan Davis is a beast. And so there are tons of clips from the last couple of years, especially of Garrett Bradbury just getting like walked back into the quarterback's lap. And that feels like the kind of thing Jordan Davis could do here. But not if he's on the bench. What did they do? Is he tired? Like, I can't believe this. I've done a couple of Eagle shows and everybody's been like, yeah, the whole thing is Jordan Davis, that run game split. So is he going to play? Are you going to exploit this? Because this feels like the time to do it.
If he's not on the field, I'll say that Garrett Bradbury should have a little bit of an easier time, but Fletcher Cox, what he did last week to poor Logan Stender.
Yeah, sure. And we got a rookie at right guard, too, that got kind of exposed by Kenny Clark, so maybe they just do that.
There's two things that are sure to happen in life. The sun will come up, and Fletcher Cox will expose a young offensive lineman. He might not show up against the Zach Martins of the world at his age anymore, but, man, he just knows to come at you with his technicality. His power is just too much to anchor against. And you talk about Bradbury. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I go at the interior of Minnesota's offensive line all day long. I overpower all the gaps. I bring down even Hassan Riddick, put him in the A or B gap, blitz him from depth at times. Now you have Kaiser White. Now you have TJ Edwards who can fill gaps. You have to take care of the run game. Because Minnesota, the last couple years where they have really exposed Philadelphia is when they could open that play action game up. When they made you just so fearful of Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins is able to take advantage of the rest of the field. And he's done it the last 3-4 years against the Eagles.
They did like 30% play action in week 1. So like I'm sure that's going to be a lot of it. But it's interesting because I don't know if I would like mug the A gaps against these Vikings. Like I would probably do like I want to get a big on there, and you want to get Bradbury one-on-one. Like that's what or get Ed Ingram one-on-one, the rookie right guard, who looked like he had a good camp. He's just kind of baptism by fire, young guy. But you want to get those guys one-on-one, and I don't know if you don't want him to get one-on-one with a Sam linebacker. Like you want him to get one-on-one with, Fletcher Cox, and so just overload a side or something like that. But I also want to flip to the other side of the trenches because the Vikings have this unreal disruptive front. They just lived in the backfield. Dalvin Tomlinson was on ones. Zadarius Smith had revenge game petty energy. Danielle Hunter, and Harrison Phillips was really disruptive, especially in the front and just like immovable. Like that front four, and then you get Jonathan Bullard, who's like a rotational guy if you want to go into base. But where's the weak spot on the offensive line for the Eagles. Like, who's the guy? Who's your Bradbury? Your guy you fear? Because what we're probably doing right now in the meetings is Zadarius Smith is watching Eagles tape and going, I want that guy, and is trying to set up one-on-ones for himself on that.
Best of luck. I mean, this is, in my opinion,
is it
three
top to bottom
line.
5?
I would say I trust all of them in one-on-one situations. If I had to pick a weak point, it would probably be at right guard with Isaac Seumalo, just because it's his first season ever playing at right guard. He's naturally been a left guard who has made that transfer over to right guard since Brandon Brooks has retired come last year. But the Eagles' offensive line last week was not sharp. They allowed a ton of pressure through, which to me was shocking, because you would have to believe a Detroit Lions team was going to send the house at you. Brian Baldinger put out a great tweet about this, saying you don't want your quarterback to rush 17 times a game, but if your offensive line is
17?
17
or was he just
times,
saying, oh my God.
No, he ran the ball 17 times. Yes. Yeah. It was bananas. He was
that
under
pressure. Why would you do that? Okay.
He's
going to die.
I know, but he didn't get hit too often that late. I mean, there was finally a flag. But when you look at what Jalen has to do, and one thing we say over at our show, can he run out of necessity rather than just wanting to? Because that's what he did earlier.
Yeah.
He reverted back.
A lot of young quarterbacks do that.
And,
that's a real rookie.
Yes, very rookie thing. But now I'm saying if Minnesota can figure out a way to hit home with 4 rushers, like you're saying, I'm deathly afraid of Zadarius Smith. I think his versatility to line him up inside and out and not know really where he's going to come from is going to make Jalen Hurts have to think for a quick second, which might throw him off. That's when things can get dangerous. You just have to find that even ground with the Eagles, which I think the Detroit Lions did a great job of doing last week.
I think the Vikings are going to try to get home with 4, and I think they're going to try to game it.
Smart.
They barely blitzed against the Packers, and blitzing Aaron Rodgers has never been that wise a proposition. So it might've been a game plan thing. And we've only seen one game, so we can't know what's real and what's game plan, but they did a ton of twists and stunts in games. It was very rarely just a straight up 4-man rush. So they might try to mess with your protections, but without committing an extra person, because the extra person is probably going to, and this is the next matchup thing, probably going to be way more keen to keep extra people back to give the corners help against AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. The corners played pretty well. Patrick Peterson had a couple of blips. Cameron Dantzler didn't. Those are the 2 outside corners. Then you had Chandon Sullivan on the inside, who's probably going to be the weak point on the secondary. So I have a feeling that they are just going to keep all of their safeties and corners way deep and just cap the heck out of everything and say, you guys have to live dink and dunk. And we're going to hope that we can get home eventually with 4 forcing you to kind of slow play it all. I don't know. Are the Eagles comfortable with that? Or are they going to be the kind of team that says, we're going to try to go deep anyways, and we're going to start throwing these into Harrison Smith?
If you look at what they did last week, they really only took 1 shot down the field. That long bomb to AJ Brown, you hit him for 54
that one was gorgeous,
yards.
Right?
Beautiful ball, hit him right in stride. AJ Brown shows you the latest of hands, which I think for a receiver is the ultimate cherry on top of your skill set. If you're just able to give the cornerback no time at all to read your hands, I'm sure they'll want to work Devonta Smith into the offense this week in that exact manner, because he didn't have a single catch last week. But what he did, it's crazy. Don't even.
What is this game?
38-35 against the Lions. Devonta Smith has no catches, and they run for 4 rushing touchdowns by 4 different individuals. The first time that's happened since 1961. So the Eagles went all the way old school by running the football.
And put up 38. Let's go.
Yeah, and they put up
Aiden who?
Aiden who? Exactly. Let me say something though about Aiden Hutchinson. I thought how they used him last week is a good benchmark for how Zadarius Smith could potentially be deployed, because Aiden was all up and down that defensive line. How they used him, they were having him crash A gaps, they were having him rush outside as a 7 tech. So Zadarius does everything. My
Yeah,
best
he
friend is a
moves around.
Packers fan. He gives me the Zadarius Smith update like it was
Oh yeah,
a history paper for him last
he
year.
was
So I know all
mad.
about this
Yeah,
guy.
that was a
Yeah,
revenge game, like a real revenge game, not like the Marcus Epps revenge. Like he doesn't care. Like he's
the,
way
J-
beyond this.
the
But
Jalen
Zadarius Smith was
Reagor
mad.
1 punt return for 7-yard revenge game that we're gonna get.
Oh,
on Sunday.
Rager's gonna take one. He's got to take one. He's not like he probably shouldn't, just because he's mad, right? Like you think?
He's gonna do it. He has to.
Yeah,
They're gonna boo the crap out of him, and I feel bad for him. But
it's Philly.
it's
You
just
get booed.
it's
Santa
Philly
got
and you
booed in
get
Philly.
booed.
Like
Yeah,
Philly.
all those years ago. So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How would you stop Justin Jefferson if you were this Eagles team?
The easy, broad, vague answer is bracket. I wouldn't try to force Darius Slay onto him because they're gonna bring him into you're gonna bring him in the backfield, and then what? You got Darius Slay lining up in like a 5-0 technique. Like you're gonna get into awkward spots there. I think you have to bracket him because right now the way he is playing, I don't think you can just like put it like there are probably very few people in the league that can just like cover him.
Does it start with Justin Jefferson, or how worried should I be about Delvin Cook right away? Because I know our fans never let the missing out on Delvin Cook pick live us down. We always talk about it. Lou loves him. He wanted to get his brother this year. I mean, he's one of the better runners in the league paired with Alex Madison. I mean, can they run for 150 to 200 yards? Do you believe that they could? Because the way that they allowed Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift to move, I don't know who they're stopping.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so, but I guess.
When you put it like that, I
yeah.
suppose.
Well, let's do some predictions. Let's talk about Bet Online real quick, and then let's do some predictions. Bet Online's your one-stop shop for all things Grambling. You can find any bet. Of course, you can bet on this Eagles-Vikings game, and we're going to talk about the spread in a little bit here. But you can do prop bets on this. How much will A.J. Brown get against the Vikings? How much will Justin Jefferson get this time? All that kind of stuff, over-unders. You can build crazy parlays. You can get even separate markets for the games, not just the actual spread. You can get more or less if you've got a real hot take. You can also bet live right in the middle of games. You can find all of that at betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, everybody. We talked about the matchups. We know who's coming to town. Our old friends, our old Minnesota Viking pals, the 38-7 best friends that we have.
There
Luke
it is.
Braun is joining us here.
Took you
from
long
Locked
enough.
On Vikings. I'm Gino Camilleri from Locked On Eagles. I had to. I didn't want to go low, but it's always one of those games. And to say
You
that
have to.
the two guys playing in that game were starting week 2 preseason games just a few weeks ago is absolutely insane to me. Case Keenum and Nick Foles, both now backups, and lived through one of the craziest playoffs of all time, I would say. If you go back and look at
Blake
the QBs
Bortles
there.
was as far as those two guys. We
Absolutely.
forget.
Yeah, and Tom Brady lost to one of them, which is absolutely bananas. But we got Jalen Hurts, we got Kirk Cousins, we have a whole bunch of, I would say, top-tier quality talent in this game, Luke. I have to respect what Minnesota has done with their new general manager. They're really turning things around in terms of getting talent in there. You got Justin Jefferson. We know that. What do you think will be the amount of points your defense up, and how many points do you think are ultimately scored in this game? Because I want to get your over and under in this one. I'll give you how many points I think the Eagles will let up, and then we could suffice a total overall score here.
Okay, we'll do this together. I like it. So Bet Online has the Vikings as 2-point dogs in this game. And the over-under is 50.5 as of earlier on Wednesday. So that would imply like a 27-24 game. So I'll go. I don't think the defense is going to do what they did against the Packers. That felt that the Eagles aren't going to mess up that bad. That was insane. And also they have people who can catch the ball, which is the Packers do not. Yeah, I'll go chalk. 24. The Vikings will allow 24 points Or, sorry, 27.
You're going to go with the
27
27?
point. That's chalk, so I'll go chalk. Because I have
Well-
no idea what this game confuses the hell out of me. I have no idea what to make of the Eagles.
I don't either, my friend. And Minnesota is always one of those games. And listen here.
It's always weird.
It's always weird. And week 2, the Eagles haven't won since 2015. They've lost all the way back to 2016 in week 2.
What?
What is this? I don't know what it is.
Is this a curse?
It doesn't make sense.
Well, you got a
It's the
curse of
curse
Kirk Cousins on Monday night, too. So we got
Yes.
all kinds of weird juju energy in this one. First night game in Philly since the 38-7 game. This one's going to get
something
weird.
I'm going to
Okay.
say the Eagles also allow 27 points. But
Are we going to
hit
tie?
our over. We're going to tie, and we're going to go to
27-27 tie? Let's do it. I'm in. 27-27 tie.
I don't like predicting. The only way I'm going to go out is with the tie right now. These seem like two teams with all the juju around them, with all the stuff that's happened in the past, players moving there, Justin Jefferson, the whole ordeal. This just seems like one of those games with the way the NFL has gone. They need to change the rule. Let's put some good mojo on it, and it's not going to end in a tie. We know that. We'll hit the over, though, with the bet online.
Hit the over.
Absolutely. Luke, this is the first time I think I've ever talked to you in my 4 years here at Locked On Eagles doing a crossover show. So
we did one. We did one in 2019 before the Zach Brown game.
Oh, goodness me. We did. I forget about those 2 years.
He got his lunch ate by Kirk Cousins and lost his job over it, which
he did.
Yikes, bud.
I threw my hat at the wall in my dad's restaurant after that missed onside kick. I thought we had it. But, for the second time, I'm glad we got to chat again on these airwaves. I'm glad everybody makes the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen each and every day. Luke Braun, tell all of our fans over at Locked On Eagles where they can find your work, where to listen to you, maybe even where to watch you as well.
Sure. So you can find Locked On Vikings wherever you find Locked On Eagles, including YouTube. You can also find me on Locked On NFL and the Minnesota Football Party. I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. On it, there is a history of the Minnesota Vikings documentary series. 7 hours long. It's like a whole season of TV. The Eagles make a few appearances there. The 38-7 game is definitely featured. Also, go all the way back to 80, first round. The 1980 run, first round started with the Vikings. And then a couple in the 2000s as well. The Bradford trade, all sorts of weird stuff. Randall Cunningham. Yeah. So there's a lot of weird little connections between the Vikings and the Eagles, but you can find all that stuff there too.
I watched a Minnesota Vikings Philadelphia Eagles playoff game when I was a younger wee lad in a Chuck E. Cheese. And I believe that was a Randy Moss game when he was there, and the Philadelphia Eagles beat them. I don't remember what exact year it was. But to say I remember 04, it was the Super Bowl year. That is correct.
Yeah, the Super Bowl year.
That, in my memory, is so ingrained in there that I can't even believe that I was in a Chuck E. Cheese watching a playoff game, because if I was doing that in this day and age, I would go absolutely insane. I got to be in my couch. I got to listen to all the pre-shows at Locked On NFL and listen to all the other shows over at the Locked On Podcast Network to find out what's going on in each and every one of those games. I'm Gino Camilleri, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Find me on Twitter at GC24_football. Find both of our shows 5 days a week. Each and every day, we're going all through football season, all through the offseason, but we're just getting started. Week 2 kicks off Monday night for the Eagles and Vikings. We'll find out who could keep their undefeated record going. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Tomorrow is Friday. That means our You Betcha Gramblin segment and, of course, the bold prediction. So get those in at Luke Braun NFL on Twitter. I'll see y'all tomorrow, and as always, Skull.